2025 was really wild. We traveled to 9 countries, hit our financial freedom number. I got laid off and we went fire on the same day. So this video is to share what this year has taught us. So grab some coffee and tea and we're gonna start the talk. What's one thing we spent money on in 2025 that truly added to our happiness? What are we most grateful for from 2025?
Hey Freedom Seekers, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Angie.
We achieved financial independence in 6 years while traveling about half the year, and we're here to share our learnings in the journey.
First question, where did we travel in 2025 and what did those trips teach us? So let's list the countries that we traveled first.
Well, lucky us, I have a 5-year memory book where I take a note every day. We can know exactly where we traveled this year. So Taipei, the year started in Taipei with the amazing fireworks out of the building.
Our friend let us join her family, watch the Taipei 101 fireworks. The family's apartment back has a very good view of the fireworks. I think seeing fireworks of Taipei 101 should be a bucket list, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. Then we met your parents in Singapore and hung out with your cousin.
Then we came back home in Vietnam and traveled to the north of Vietnam right before the Lunar New Year. And then we came back here home in the US. So that would be 3 countries, even though Vietnam still count because we travel around the country. And then April, we went to Korea during the cherry blossom. And fast forward to October, we usually like to do about a month trip in Europe every year. And this year we check out Switzerland, Croatia, north of Italy, help me.
Greece,
Slovenia, that's it.
Yeah.
So that would be 9 countries. All right, you can answer the questions first.
So the 2 to 3 countries that impacted me the most, I would say South Korea and Greece. Yeah, so South Korea, amazing people and food. I grew up in like a very Korean part of the US. I don't know, I feel a little bit of kinship with the country, so it was cool to like go to the country itself. Amazing food, unlike Tokyo or Japan, you don't have to wait in lines for well-known or recommended spots. It's super safe, super clean, great public transport. And then we got lucky to witness the presidential impeachment.
That's actually on my list.
Yeah,
too.
that was like a once in a lifetime, in the top travel experiences of my life. Even though it was just protests all night, but there's such an energy to it. Even watching back the videos now, I can get emotional just remembering the intensity, even though we didn't really understand what was happening, but it was just such an overflowing of emotion in the crowd. And then Greece would be my other one. I was exposed to a lot of Korean culture from the immigrants in the neighborhood I grew up in. And then Greece, you're exposed to ancient Greek culture just through school. It's such an important part of world history. There was some emotions in a weird way associated with going there and seeing the ruins and the history for yourself. And the food also is incredible in Greece. The people are really nice.
I actually have 3. We overlap a lot. So I have Korea too, the president impeachment. So we stayed in just happened to be next to where all of the protesters are. So when we left our hotel and then whenever we came back, we would pass by them. And they always play really good K-pop. And then somehow it just felt so energetic and patriotic. On the day of the result, we actually came back to the crowd and joined with them and then listened to whatever they were saying, even though we didn't understand a single word. And then when the moment happened, when they announced the result of the impeachment, it's just so moving. I think I got teary during that time, and I got teary when we were walking by the crowd a few days before.
Yeah, and I got lucky to record it's not a great video because I'm moving, but the exact second when they announce it.
Yeah.
And since we didn't understand anything, the guy kept going on and on and on. And I think we were even thinking, should we leave? But
people were like,
we had to
clapping
stand. We had to stay. It was such a big moment.
There would be people giving out food, cleaning out the streets. So it's very well organized. The whole thing is just really awe-inspiring to be able to witness. So the second one I have, surprise, is actually Singapore. The reason why it had such an impact on me was that was probably the very first international trip that I took my parents with. My parents didn't travel internationally much, and that was my mom's first time to Singapore too. Just watching them experiencing new things, it just filled me up with so much fulfillment in a sense. And I just wonder if this is how you feel when you take your kid get to a new place, watching him or her experiencing something for the first time. But I just felt really fulfilled when we were taking my parents around Singapore and with a lot of help from my cousins who live there. And the last one is Greece. If you really travel to Greece and visited all of the major archaeological sites, they are pretty much, not all of them, but most of them are like a humble pile of rocks. But it's the birthplace of Western civilization, and I grew up not having a lot of exposure to that side of the world. So I only missed the Greek and Roman history, and just being there, learning about the history and about most of Greek sculptures are actually made of metal, bronze, while the Roman actually used marble. Right?
They made marble copies of them. Marble's more durable. So most of what we think of Greek art is actually Roman copies, and there's like a few surviving bronzes.
Another thing about the expressions on the sculptures.
Yeah, do you want me to talk about
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, that was super interesting for me too. I feel you learned so much from traveling. Before, I loved Greek art and Roman art, but I didn't really know the periods well. But then when you're there, you really absorb it. And so I think they called it Doric. I forgot what the exact, the early one where they're kind of smiling and the sculptures are stiffer. And then the severe style, where everything's more serious. And then you have contrapposto where they're more naturalistic and much more realistic. And that came after the Persians invaded Athens and decimated it, burned the city to the ground. They had to flee to neighboring islands. So yeah, just the intersection there of new art styles emerging kind of as a consequence of these like incredible historical events is fascinating. Sort of Athens got serious and severe after that. It was very traumatic for them to have their city burned to the ground by the Persians. So interesting. Question number 2. What's the best travel experience we had in 2025 and was it worth the cost?
This is very hard to answer, but when I heard it, the first answer that came to my mind was, funny enough, when we were in Slovenia, because it's just a really perfect day. So we rented a car and we went to the caves, and it just blew my mind. Impressed was, I was skeptical when Tyler booked the cave tour. I came from Vietnam and we have the biggest cave system in the world. So when I heard about another cave, I was skeptical. At one point when the whole thing opened up and there's a gorge at the bottom, and it felt so like a movie set, and that's really wowed me. So that was the cave, and then we went to Lake Black where I spontaneously decided to rent a boat so that we can row to an island. It was like a sport that I found out later, but it was really memorable for me because we was rowing the boat during sunset. And then the gorge that we went to was so beautiful too. It's just like a stroll through it was so satisfying. I felt a little bit sick before we got there. And the moment I enter nature, and the Slovenian people are some of the nicest people I have ever met. So the entire experience made a really good travel experience package. Was it worth the cost? I think so. I don't think we really paid that much.
Yeah, I don't think it's that expensive. They are on the euro though, right? I wouldn't call it a cheap destination, but it definitely wasn't inexpensive.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
nature in Switzerland is so grander, but it costs an arm and a leg to get there. Yeah. It's surprised.
No, that was a good one. I kind of didn't think of it. The first thing that did come to mind for me was the trip to Oracle of Delphi in Greece. A runner-up for me would be the DMZ trip we did. But Oracle of Delphi, so there we paid a bit for like a guide to take us from Athens since we didn't want to rent a car. But it was a group. It wasn't really that expensive, but definitely something to do kind of sparingly. The guide was history graduate student or something like that and extremely knowledgeable. And for me though,
very opinionated.
Fun to talk to, but I think the main thing about it was there's just kind of a strange emotion I had being on the ground and how important it was in the ancient world and how bizarre the mystical was there.
Yeah.
The ruins, there's not much left.
Pile of rock.
It just kind of felt very powerful to like be there. And in the ancient world, people from all over were coming here to get prophecy from the oracle. And I just kind of imagined how powerful and bizarre that rite would have been in the temple, and she's screaming and people are interpreting the messages from her. Yeah, so for me, that was the first thing that came to mind, just the emotional emotional power. And maybe I would have put the impeachment in Korea, but that didn't cost us any money.
The impeachment costs nothing. Moving on to our third question. How has travel shaped what we value and spend money on?
So I broke my answer out into like two, more general and more specific. So like generally speaking, and I do have friends that don't like travel, and that I totally get that. So obviously we're just speaking for ourselves. But to me, the biggest lesson from travel is that things don't really make you happy. It's a cliche, but it is kind of true. When you have too many things, you kind of get weighed down, actually. And yeah, just speaking for ourselves, I think nothing really feels better than feeling light and able to, and investing in adventure and experiences instead of, I don't know, upgrades and things you already have. But more specific, I feel like our travel strategy for being able to travel so much relatively cheap is spend less on lodging.
We have a very high tolerance for where we stay. We love hostels. We don't mind sharing bathrooms.
Because I think the other thing is, yeah, it's just a place to crash. I don't know if FOMO is the right word, but you only have so much time when you're really traveling intensely. And so you want to explore the city as much as possible. Maybe you're never going to be back. So I think in Dalat, I was like, we're going to a resort just to chill. Resort.
Yeah.
And that was fun and nice and relatively cheap in Vietnam versus other countries. And the other strategy, I think, is food. Groceries are a part of the food culture of a place. So I love going to grocery stores in different countries. And sometimes it's just too much to eat at a restaurant 2-3 times a day. I just feel like overwhelmed. But so it's like a win-win to me. You save some money and then you experience the grocery side of the country you're in. And you can even go to specialty grocery stores and get delicacies that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get at a restaurant, or it'd be kind of crazy expensive at a restaurant.
So how travel shape what we value and spend money on? So the first one is minimalism. Because when we're traveling, we're technically living out of 2 suitcases. So we have to really trim down all of our belongings so that we can travel longer. And if we can survive 2-3 months with this much stuff, we can survive with this much for much longer too. And then another thing is, if I spend a lot of time at home, certain things would mean a lot to me, right? Oh, I got this from this trip. I got that from my dad, or things would have like sentimental values or also money values. But when I'm traveling, I forget about all of them, which makes me realize that I shouldn't even collect things. We rent our own place out when we're traveling. And of course, whatever stuff that we put out to the guests, if it's lost or broken, I should be okay with it. And that's another factor that makes me feel that I don't want to buy anything back to the house. When we're traveling, more of the stuff that we buy are perishable. So we want to enjoy them, and we don't want to clutter the house with any more than what we already have. So I learned to let go a lot of how much I hold on to items in the house. And the second thing is, so when we hit our financial freedom number, on paper, it doesn't change much, but psychologically, it changed so much in me because all of a sudden, I have the option to walk out of my job. And when we were in Zadar, Croatia, so this is famous for its sunset because of, who is it?
Alfred Hitchcock said it's the most beautiful sunset in the world.
We don't necessarily agree with it. Before we saw the sunset, I, of course, wanted to check it out, and I had a work meeting about the same time too. So I put on my headphones, listening to the meeting, and ran out to the water to see the sunset. And that's when it just struck me the contrast between corporate world and sunset in nature. It's just like a game that everybody's playing, and the other one feels like life. And of course, sometimes I need the game to feel the opportunity to enjoy life. But at that point, we already achieved financial independence. So it struck me even harder that I didn't have to play this game to enjoy this life.
Okay, number 4. I'm glad that I'm asking you this, because what surprised us most about transitioning from working to retire? I would say working to financially independent. I don't really think
I was the one that got laid off, and then we decided to start FIRE on the same day. I made a video about my first month into retirement at 35. So that one, I went into the details of how I was processing all of the emotions that came from a huge shift in life and identity changes. But if I can sum up into one sentence, I would say it's funny enough that we spent 6 years pursuing financial freedom, but deep doubt in me, I was skeptical about it. Not about the pursuit, but the freedom. Because I feel like, what am I gonna do if I don't have a job to focus on? How I'm gonna use the freedom if I'm gonna be so free and I have so many decisions? Would I have decision paralysis? So I'm skeptical about, do people really enjoy freedom once they retired? And then now we about 2 months in, and I've been telling Tyler, I don't understand, why don't people want this freedom? It just feels, it's not even exciting. It's been giving me a very deep sense of calmness. So I've been living through my day with a lot of ease, and there's really no rush to do anything. The best thing you can do for yourself is the freedom of the mind through meditation. The second best thing you can buy for yourself is financial freedom.
I think that's a good line. One of the best things you can buy for yourself is that financial independence. Yeah, my answer here, it's kind of more about the transition from working for someone to kind of working for yourself. Retired kind of has a connotation of like you're done. And I know that FIRE is an acronym that contains retirement in it, but I think most people that FIRE relatively early aren't thinking of, I'm done. Certainly not yet.
I think human beings are not evolved to sit around enough.
But the beauty of FIRE is then it opens you up where the demands for income are much less, so you could get a less stressful job. It just increases your freedom, period.
I think retirement means you retire from exchanging your time for money.
Yeah, and so for me, one of the big changes is guilt around productivity, or one of the challenges, I should say. It's kind of surprising. When you're on payroll and getting a salary, if you carve out a little time to watch a YouTube video or whatever, just twiddle your thumbs or do something, it's like you win. I'm getting paid anyways. So there isn't really guilt, or like maybe when the workday ends and you just relax and enjoy yourself. Yeah, you feel you deserve it. But I feel like when you're working for yourself, the discipline is a little harder sometimes. For me, I would say at least, harder to enforce. So you kind of have to be more strict with yourself. And then if you spend time doing something fun or distracted from work, you're not winning. So there's guilt there. I think it's just finding the balance there, pushing yourself, but not pushing yourself too hard. And it's difficult to catch that balance exactly. I don't feel I've 100% gotten there, but that was a surprising aspect of that transition from kind of salaried working for someone else to doing work on your own.
Question number 5. What did we let go in 2025, physically, mentally, or financially? So one thing that I let go is waiting around to be invited. Yeah, I think like in the past, we were so busy and we were just waiting for friends to invite us to an event or a social activity. But now this year, we really started multiple clubs, and we're hosting people for Christmas for our couple club. And so we took initiatives in creating a community that we love to surround ourselves by.
I think that's really good advice for people to don't wait invitation.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're like so busy with life, it would be a good excuse. Oh, I'm so busy. I don't have any mental energy to host or invite friends. All you need to do is to send that text.
Yeah, everyone's waiting for an invitation. So if you're the one that sends it, most of the time people are super happy about it. And it's just kind of taking that initiative. And it's fine to wait for invitations, but if you want more friends, if you want to do more stuff, I think it's really good advice not for an invitation.
I think the thing when you are in your 20s, easier to go out with friends. But in your 30s, a lot of our friends have kids, so we have to work around it. And I think it's just that consistency in spending time with friends really enrich our...
I had a little trouble answering this question when I first left a W-2 job about 2 years ago. I went through a period of trying a lot of different projects, and with any kind of new projects, they don't work out or certain ones fizzle out. So I'm excited to add projects that you can build upon and give meaning and grow and make you grow.
Like our Stroll to Freedom.
Yeah.
We're not sponsoring our own.
Shameless plug. Question number 6, how do we balance spontaneity and planning?
Now that we have more freedom, so this is the way how we balance things out. Not just we have more freedom, but in our life as a couple. So my astrology element is Earth. So I'm more grounded and rigid. I'm much less flexible than Tyler, while his sign is water. So he's very fluid. And so the way we do things is, let's say with traveling, I need to know a plan. I cannot just sit around waiting for the day to fly out. So I usually would be the one that would book the flight. So I know exactly when we're going to travel. I would ask Tyler to give me a rough itinerary so I know what hotel or Airbnb I can book. And then if there's certain restaurants that's hard to reserve, I would do those as well. So I would do flights, hotel, and I don't know anything much about the itinerary. And Tyler, on the other hand, he to check out the vibe of each place first. So when we arrive on day-to-day basics, he would do the research on the day before, and in the morning, he would just brief me what we're going to do today. So I give him full control of the day-to-day activities as long as I know everything else that need to be booked have been booked.
I think sometimes for you, it feels a little more spontaneous. There's a lot more background planning done in advance. I also like that you kind of construct the skeleton and then I kind of fill things in. But
Yeah,
definitely. And so for me, I was thinking more just in like day-to-day life. I feel that you need to, like you were saying earlier, humans, we're not evolved to sit and do nothing. So you need to have routines and heads down work for relatively sustained periods of time in order to feel productive and good about yourself and have things in order in your life. But then you also need pockets of spontaneity and adventure to enjoy.
Example, because we live in the Pacific Northwest and the winter can be really harsh. So whenever the sun is out, we're gonna be out. So our day is spontaneous based on if it's gonna be a sunny day or not. And then we would move our schedule around now that we have more freedom. One thing that we can be so spontaneous because we have our budgets down to the T. So we know exactly how much we can spend on traveling, on food. So if we're feeling like spontaneous, it gives me a lot of like peace of mind in terms of, if we're gonna spend the money, I still know for sure that we're on the budget and we still able to live out our fire life, our early retirement life without worrying so much about if we're gonna run out of money.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I think it's like balance. Like if you're just too spontaneous, you're gonna be irresponsible and run out of money. And if you're too structured, it's boring. So you kind of need that balance where you have a framework, and within that framework, you can be spontaneous. Like we have the overall itinerary of the trip, and obviously within that, certain days we're just doing random spontaneous things, or we have the framework of our budget, and within it, we're indulging once in a while or just randomly doing something, but it's always constrained within. That's the balance. So I feel like the most spontaneous thing we do is just sometimes randomly go on a walk if the weather's nice, just to get out in nature. And that's a beautiful thing that independence affords.
Because the sun sets around 4 or 5 p.m. now. So if it's a sunny day, we can just get out at 2 p.m. to catch the sun and also be in nature.
And it's so simple and it's so free, literally free, doesn't cost anything, but it's really like a huge perk.
It really adds a lot into our relationship quality. Nature walks is one of our most favorite activities.
And then the other super spontaneous thing that we'll do is just occasionally drive to a neighboring city or somewhere for like a day or two.
Yeah.
And that's cool to have that freedom too, is amazing.
Question number 7. What's one thing we spend money on in 2025 that truly added to our happiness?
Well, for me, I have just a really simple thing. I mean, aside from travel, of course, but I think that goes without saying.
I actually have
I feel like that goes without saying. But
Okay.
So for me, it's very, very simple, but my first thought was I like media a lot and podcasts and reading comics and watching things. And so it's so simple that like on Patreon, I have some subscriptions to creators I like. And for me, that feels twofold. I get access to more content that I really enjoy, and it's kind of my hobby. But then also I feel like I'm supporting them as they deserve to be supported for all the work they do. You feel a little better about yourself when it's kind of like a voluntary support. And yeah, it's super simple, but it does bring me a lot of happiness and joy, kind of relatively passionate interests I have for certain types of content and media like that.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was about to say traveling and food, but that goes without saying. I don't know if it consider as spending, but I would want to say donations and financial support for my parents. So we have a budget for those, and every month I would send out donations and send money to my parents. So my sister and I, we were able to retire my dad this year. It's so funny that my dad and I retired in the same year. Anyway, it was like a huge thing in our family. My dad's been working nonstop for a decade to support us. My parents, like a lot of Asian parents that have kids study abroad, they've been sacrificing a lot for our education and also life in the US. So we're really happy that we finally can take care of them. We retired my dad, and then we also financially support them. That way of spending money gives me a lot of happiness. And of course, like the donation goes goes without saying. Like when we practice compassion and generosity, it would just benefit us first before anyone else. And I think really good thing. Even like over the past 6 years, I don't even know when we started the budget, but I think like we've been very consistent with our donations.
If you could your January 2025 self advice, what would it be?
I have one. In January 2025, I still had the job. Now the thing about this job is I was really grateful for it. I think I will always be grateful for the job. It's very comfortable and I got to make really close friends with my coworkers because it's just so good of a job. It comes with the anxiety of losing it. I was scared of losing that comforting cushion. But then I think this layoff is really truly a blessing in disguise for me because it's really forced me to start our fire life because I would be with that 1 more year syndrome for a few more years if it hadn't been for the layoff. So yeah, I would tell my 2025 January self that you should enjoy the job when you can, but don't worry so much about it. You have no control over it. You can only do the best that you can. And if something happens, you have the resilience and the grit to start another chapter somehow, somewhere. You've done this so many times before. You can do it again. So just enjoy the present moment in life and let things unfold itself.
Yeah, that's good. I think I would just always tell my past self, just be more gentle to yourself. Enjoy. Like you said, I like how you ended it where like you're always going to figure out, have faith that you or the powers that be, you always figure out things as they come. Don't worry so much and just be.
There's this quote that thought of fear itself is greater than what it is we
Oh,
fear.
totally. And I think if something really bad actually occurs, you just automatically respond to it. It's bad, but it's also, you kind of just go into auto drive. Oh, okay, I got to run away from this threat, or we got to solve this issue right now. I got to get a job, whatever it is. But yeah, it's the imagination that really kind of kills you.
Always remind yourself what's the most valuable things in life for you, because as long as that thing's still around, you can lose all the other things. So just know your priorities. All right, last question. What are we most grateful for from 2025?
It goes without saying. It's been a very powerful exercise at times that I actually think of my past self as someone else that helped me get where I am. And so I'm like, thank you, Ty. You did a good job. I'm grateful for the job you did. And even the ways you failed, I sympathize with them because if I was seeing someone else fail in that way, I wouldn't lash out at them or be cruel to them the way we can be to ourselves. And bizarrely, I think it's a good practice to be, I'm grateful to our past self. In the present moment, I'm grateful where we are. Like in 2017, 2018, living with this many degrees of freedom didn't seem possible. It felt like a complete dream to me. So I'm grateful that in the present moment that we're here. But I think the main thing I want to emphasize is gratitude to our past selves, that we were disciplined in getting here. We were very lucky, and you have to bless and acknowledge that. But we also made good decisions, and we kept things on track, and we stayed strict to our budget, and we had a vision of a goal, and we stuck to it, and we had ups and downs and challenges that we honor and give ourselves grace in. Maybe connecting to the previous question, I'm grateful for Tyler and Angie of January 2025 and what they did to get us to Tyler and Angie of January 2026.
I have this weekly journal, and there will be the list of what I'm grateful for. And the first thing I always put down is mindfulness practice. And that's the very reason why I want to pursue freedom in the first place, because I want to devote more to mindfulness practice. In terms of 2025, I'm grateful that my sister and I could retire our dad. I'm grateful that we hit our financial freedom number just a few months before I got laid off, so that we could start our fire life on the same day that I got laid off. I'm grateful for the nature walks that we took. That was my most favorite thing to do with Tyler, to do with you. And then I'm really grateful for this new freedom. The past few weeks have been the calmest day of this year for me. I've been meditating for almost 10 years. I've been experiencing a lot of mind states. So sometimes it would be really at ease, tranquil, but contentment is rare. And over the past few weeks, that's one of the biggest, most noticeable experience that I've had. So yeah, wherever you are on your stroll to freedom, just keep at it. Make sure that you enjoy the present moment more than anything, but keep working at it, because I think, at least in my own experience, this freedom is so worth it.
Yeah, and I always like to say it's not binary. It's not every bit more savings you have, every bit more location independence you have. They all add up to make your life better every step of the way. So even if you feel very far off from whatever kind of fire number you have as a target, that's no reason to be demoralized. Like every step, you're going to make your life better.
Yeah, because it's not like a final destination. It's a whole journey. It's like compound interest. The closer do you get to financial freedom, you already started to feel that semi-retirement life. You have to wait until you get there to experience it. And if you're curious about the actual financial actions that we took to transit to FIRE on the following days of my layoff, you can check out this video. That's wrap up our 2025. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for listening until point. Happy New Year. And we see you in next year, 2026.
Keep strolling to freedom.
All right, bye now.